Hi everybody, I'm Cinnamon Cooney, your art Sherpa, and today I'm going to be sharing with you how to paint this fabulous Caribbean boat. I'm really excited about this today because I'm going to get to teach you a couple of things, like from my own personal art practice, on how to, before you even begin a painting, make a painting significantly more exciting. I'm going to show you some really great information on creating shadows that aren't dead. They're like living shadows, creating really wonderful warm sands and great waters, about keys, about many things in art that if you take on these simple things, your overall paintings as a whole will become much more dynamic and much more exciting. On the mic today is my husband, John.
Hi, guys.
And we're doing this live if you're here on the replay. And he follows me around with cameras. And if you guys have questions during a live event, he tries to make sure that I see them. We have several moderators. Those are people with the wrenches. And when you put your questions in caps, they try to get those to John. Now, sometimes you may be asking a question that was answered earlier in a broadcast, and that may not get to me. But it was definitely answered, and you can always come back in the comments after broadcast if I missed your question and put it there, because I really love to answer them. So I try to come by after these upload and the questions start populating and answer as many of those art questions as I can, because my whole goal is for you guys to have a better time and experience painting. So I'm excited about today.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh.
You're going to answer what I do.
We haven't been on for a little bit. So we had a little bit of weather here in the South. Actually, the world's had a little bit of weather.
They have.
The world has had a bit of weather going on right now. It's been a time we're going to talk a little bit about that. It's kind of ironic that this boat kept getting bumped till this moment. For those of you that are concerned, no, the house is not. Houston went through a lot, and we were on a hill, and so our neighbors were impacted.
Yes.
Would be what I would say. And so we're definitely thinking about everyone in the surrounding area, all the way almost to Nacogdoches.
Oh, yeah, man.
It's huge.
It's all the
huge
way up
scope through Louisiana, Port Arthur. I mean, it was a huge scope in the Gulf Coast here.
Yeah.
So just many of our neighbors were impacted. I even shared some pictures of my friends with everybody. So that happened. We've got this boat.
The boat.
The boat. So I'm really excited to talk about the boat.
Okay.
The reason being is you guys, every once in a while I come to you guys on Facebook or on our website, and I'll say, what do you guys want to paint? And you guys just share whatever images you find. If I can get a license for the image, sometimes I'll paint directly that. But sometimes you guys give me a painting that I don't have the rights to paint. It's not mine. It was done by another artist. And you guys share this really great boat painting that's done by another artist. And I don't have a right to just come up here and copy their painting and teach it to you. That would not be particularly cool. But you know, that topic of a boat, right? And what you guys liked about the boat, and I've done that kind of painting before. That's something in my family we've done a lot of. I know a little bit about. So I was able to go out and find a photo that could become the boat that you guys asked for, which is really exciting. And this is something really relevant to you because you guys might be out getting a photo, right?
Yep.
And you take a picture. You're on a beach, you're on vacation, and you take this lovely picture. And that seems like a brilliant picture, doesn't it?
It does.
It does. I would probably never paint this and put this in a gallery, though.
Because it's...
Well, I was explaining it to John this morning, is like, this isn't how I would paint this picture. One of the things that artists who paint all the time start to do is we start to focus, and we recognize that there are elements about this picture are very good. The color's incredibly good. The contrast of the sand to the ocean is amazingly good. This shadow is spectacular. Whenever you have an image that has these beautiful, strong spoken shadows, this gives you a chance to create something I like to call a living shadow. And living shadows always have huge impact on a painting. So as an artist, what I would do is I would look at this and I would start to edit this piece, right? So here maybe I took this great vertical piece and I like these elements of it. A lot of people would leave it as it is, but believe it or not, all of this sky and this mask going off to the right creates kind of a boring painting. Right? When it's all done and said, I mean, it'd be nice, it'll be good, you could take it somewhere. But say you want to do something with a little impact. You want to shake people up who come over into your house and make them go, oh, I love that. One of the things that you can do is to start to crop and edit. My mom and I are infamous for this, like on our phones, where we start to zoom in and see if there's something within this gem that's like a cut diamond. You know how like on a diamond you cut away the extra rock revealing the gem within?
Yeah.
So I did a bunch of that, and I realized if I took out a lot of that dead space above the clouds and zoomed in, not only am I closer to the boat that you guys had very good art instincts picking that boat, but I created a more interesting painting with better balance. Now all of a sudden all these elements become more dynamic. The shadow becomes more of the focus, which is really what's exciting to me. And I have something on my wall that's a little step up. It's a little more interesting than just a traditionally framed piece. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what I did here. I was like, how do we get that? Now I could have even, some artists might have gone in and squared it and folded it, right? But when I folded this here, because this was not brightly lit,
Oh, it was kind of shadowy.
it was in a shadow, this would not have been a good crop. The good lighting on the boat is right here and in here.
Oh,
So
yeah.
to create this living shadow, I need to, how do we see shadow? We got to have light,
Right.
right? The thing that takes paintings up to that next notch, say you get a bunch of skills and you get a bunch of stuff going and you're trying to get your painting to that next notch, the thing that takes it to the next notch is lighting.
Right.
And understanding how to see where the lighting is exciting in a painting, because you're really just painting light and shadow in a painting. So I've got this here. The other thing that, and I'll put this up, we're going to put this up on the website. I've got a traceable, of course. I made it sure that I printed this out in black and white. If you ever want to see if a painting is exciting or interesting to do, print it out in black and white. If it doesn't look great in black and white, you're going to have to work 10 times as hard on your canvas
Right.
to make it look amazing. You're going to have to make all kinds of corrections. But when a painting already looks pretty good in black and white, right, then it's going to be really interesting. Now this painting, so in color we talk about the value sets, right, how dark or light something is. And if everything is evenly distributed, sometimes it's not very exciting in a painting. What's exciting is when something is predominantly one thing. See how most of these areas are very light? And there's a little bit of dark value.
Gotcha.
That's going to make a more exciting painting. If a lot of the areas were predominantly dark with a little bit of light, also very exciting painting. This is a big deal in still lifes. It's the difference between a dead, lifeless still life and a still life that makes everybody go, oh, I have to have it.
Right.
That painting speaks to me. So this is where that secret sauce is in art, and it's not really about talent. It's about understanding some fundamentals of design. So
That totally makes sense.
I just got excited that I got to share this little element of art with you, and I know some of you guys put up with me, so...
No, everyone is really excited about it. And so you know, I mean, like, they are really, really happy to be here today. We got like almost 500 people, 475 people here already, ready to paint this painting with you. So they wanna be here. So we're happy to celebrate seeing everybody here today. Thank you guys for coming and join us. Right, Cinnamon doing some dancing out there. We like to dance when we get a group of people here to celebrate painting. So we always do that.
This is actually not that dissimilar to what we do in the house.
No,
I mean,
it's
I don't
not.
always get a bubble. I get a bubble machine now, but before this, I didn't get a bubble machine.
Yeah,
Now I know a bubble machine is essential
that's
to
right.
joy.
To where we keep
Joy
bubbles
is
coming.
important.
So if you guys are here with us, thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it. And if you're at home and you can't get up and dance, don't forget to wiggle the fingers and wiggle the toes, right? So we're going to, and you got some wishes for the canvas
I
today.
do,
too,
but
too,
it's
too.
really specific today.
Yeah.
Today I had a wish for basically the Gulf Coast here, the South, which is being hit by Hurricane Harvey.
Yeah.
But also South Asia, Mumbai, Switzerland, Karachi. And when I'm wishing for all these areas, because all of these areas have something in common, they've been hit by weather that has devastated their population.
Yeah.
So I'm wishing for quick rescue. I'm wishing that people get back in their homes quickly. I'm wishing that people reconnect with their loved ones if they've been separated, that they find their loved ones safe, right? And that everybody is okay, because this is hit around the world. This isn't just in my area. There is stuff happening around the world. So I'm wishing that today just on this canvas, on this boat, because a boat is like a symbol of rescue, right? That everybody is okay.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm doing in today's canvas. All right, let's get this sucker laid in.
Okay.
We've talked. I'm going to get a bunch of notes from people like, I'm 10 minutes in and you're still talking. I know. Teaching is like that.
Bear with us, Lord.
All the talking with the teaching.
We're going to keep talking, so. It's not gonna
So
stop.
one of the things that I'm going to do, of course I made a traceable for you guys because I really don't think drawing is what makes or breaks an artist. It's a wonderful skill. I encourage you to learn it. But more importantly, I want you to be creative today.
Yeah.
So, of course, I created a traceable. But I am going to show you how I block this in. And how I like to block canvases in is I will divide a canvas in half down this middle line, and I have that light line here. And then I did it again here. So I have an 11 by 14 canvas, and I've divided it in half vertically and horizontally so that I can take my awesome, awesome reference. And what I do is hey, babe.
I just don't want to see if I fit this over the top of you, then it like squishes you. So that's why I was like,
I got to go this way.
No, you're
There you go. So I'm going to fold that in half, right? And then I fold it in half again. And what that means is that I don't have to try to see everything at once. I can see sections. So I can map out my painting easier, sketching loosely in. There's two sort of thoughts in art about people who are very specific and they plan out a painting and, you know, they're very tight and organized within that experience. And then there's sort of like the loosely creating it and taking in the light and the overall bounce. I tend to lean into that second category. I'm more of a Titan than a Michelangelo. That's a pretty zhuzhy. Well, yes, I'm like Titan. But I would say that I am in my thinking. I'm more about the color and the light and more than the precision planning. There isn't really a wrong way to do this, though we tend to get in fights about it as an artist. Look at our palette today. So in this palette, there's a couple colors I didn't include, mostly because I didn't want you guys to have to go out and buy color. If I were doing this painting on a large canvas for sale, I probably would have added raw sienna to my palette, and I probably would have added some type of manganese blue, like a Yinmin blue. Anyway, so what I have here is cad yellow medium. I have cad red light, burnt umber, burnt sienna, ultramarine blue, phthalo blue, phthalo green, yellow ochre, titanium white, and a little glazing medium. And that's all I'm going to use to put this in because I'm going to pay more attention to the values than anything else. So the first thing I'm going to do is kind of block in, sketch in with paint.
oh, yeah.
Right? And somebody asked me, somebody was asking, how do you sketch in with paint the other day, which I thought was sort of an interesting question. I have my reference photo up here. You guys have yours picture in picture.
Yeah.
And plus whatever, you know, you grab from the website.
I'm just like, oh, picture. Oh,
Picture,
goes
picture.
away.
Oh, okay. So I'm going to get a little brush here. So I've got this number 4 cat's tongue. Oh, is that an ArtSherpa brush? It is. Goodness gracious, how exciting is that? I'm going to get that wet and drag that off. Just any brush you feel comfortable sketching with will work. I'm going to load a little of my burnt umber onto here, and I'm going to loosely sketch in what I'm seeing. And what I need to be able to see here is the positioning of objects in relationship to the lines, the sectors, right? So I know that there's a little bit of boat that's going to come out from this sector. Right? And I'm going to try to just sketch how that organizes out in relationship to the folds. I'm going to need to make my folds even stronger. And that's all I'm doing. So I'm just like, I'm not trying to dry the whole thing. I'm saying, all right, in this upper left corner, what have I got? I got a little piece going like this. The nice thing about the burnt umber is that as I paint it, it will vanish into the painting. And so I can be pretty loose and relaxed about it and not too worried. I'm going to put you, where do I want you? Somewhere. I need another screen is what it is.
You have little things taped up all over the place over there.
I do. That, though this is, again, not different from how life is for us regularly. I just need to have it in a comfortable position.
She's all MacGyver up in here with her stuff.
I do tend to be a little bit. So I'm just going to want to make sure that I'm catching in the general gist of this shape of this boat as it's coming down. And if I can do that, what I'll get is a fairly decent drawing that will look very boatish. So see, I'm sketching down.
Very
Again,
boatish.
I'm coming over from the right. I'm looking at where is the division here, and I'm just making sure that my lines reflect those lines. If I can do that, well, then I can pretty much get my painting in and have a nice time.
Yeah.
Which was the whole goal of today. One of my favorite parts of the boat is this line that comes underneath here.
The keel?
And scoops out. It's so beautiful to me.
Oh, yeah.
And I really like it, so I definitely... Notice that there's not a lot of paint on my brush. It's kind of watery.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to let it really vanish when I need it to. I don't need to worry about too much here because there's a deep shadow here, so that's pretty easy. I'm just trying to get blocky in the shapes that I'm seeing and make sure that I'm getting the general feeling of the boat. And then as I paint it, right... As I paint the boat, I can make adjustments once I have it laid in where I'm sort of happy with it. I love this swirl that comes back around here.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty awesome sauce. And we see it too. This comes over. And I'm just looking at how objects relate to each other. So I'm like, this line here begins about 1 inch over on my photograph that I can see it before underneath the mast and everything. So that's how I know where to put it. I use each object like navigation, like using stars, to help me figure out where the other objects are in relationship to them. You know, I'm not actually going to worry too much about putting in the mast and stuff at this stage. I just want the big objects and their shapes, because that's what's going to make this for me. If I get too fiddly with the details, it's going to be a whole thing. So to me, the more important part would be getting this worked out. You know. And then, kind of interesting. So then I've got this water line back here that I know I've got going. And that comes behind my boat. This sort of little, water line. Just looking at the... Where's my little water line? Just sketching that in. And then there's beach here. And then I've got a shadow.
Yeah. It's quite a shadow, too.
Yeah, it's a big deal. And you heard me say living shadow.
What does that mean?
So what that means is a lot of people, the first thing people have trouble remembering doing in their artwork is to have a shadow. They forget that the shadow is like a big deal. And so all their objects are sort of floating around the canvas.
Uh-huh.
Willy-nilly, no gravity, no light. But that's what happens. This is the first thing an artist will learn to do, is to start putting shadows under objects. The next thing artists learn to do is to start to see the colors inside the shadow, right? Because the first shadow you put, you just get some gray and you put it underneath your object. This is a flat, dead shadow. Shadows are not black holes.
No.
They're actually very dynamic. They're very alive. They have lots of colors. And if you can capture that in painting, like the colorist did, you get to move away from the flat and somewhat lifeless paintings that the tonalists were known for.
Oh.
I'm not throwing shade at those guys. I'm just saying. It's art history. I mean, those guys at Sotheby said it. Don't come at me.
Quietly state an opinion and point to the other people who formulated it first.
That's what I'm going to go with. So I'm going to get a bright out. And, of course, one of my favorite brights. I'm going to start blocking this in now. I'm going to do the underpainting.
Okay.
I'm going to do it all with my largest brush that I'm going to be using on the painting. What is this, a number 10 bright called Goldilocks? Wow, that must be exciting. I'm going to get my brush sort of wet here. And I'm going to do an interesting thing. I'm going to take my phthalo blue and my ultramarine blue and mix them together. And I'm going to add a little phthalo green. And that's going to give me my Caribbean Grecian ocean color. And the back up here is going to be quite dark with this. Ah, such a joy. So I bet there's some questions coming in about that.
Sure is.
And yes, I am excited. And yes, there will be videos about it. But for the purposes of this, I just want to have a nice time painting today because I just went through a hurricane.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just using my favorite tools.
So these are the to answer some questions. These are the TheArtSherpa open stock red handled brushes.
These are the TheArtSherpa. These are custom designed brushes between me and Silver Brush. They have a unique filament in the world. This is the Sherpa white filament. This is the firmest, most authoritative filament that I know of on the market. It is like it tells the paint, you gonna go here. Like look how I'm just barely having it on. I can just make it do it. Wow. You're gonna go there because I said so. This is 4 heavy-bodied acrylic paint. What I love about this versus the old Goldilocks is the edge on this is so sharp, and it just holds its line. So I'm taking this down about a couple inches. You know, putting this dark value in, and then I'm going to start lightening it a bit.
Now you're happy with this one, but any number 10 would work here.
Any number 10 bright would be good. Or a brush that you're comfortable with because you're blocking in right now.
You could use an 8 or a 12.
You could use an 8. You could use a 12. Absolutely true.
Just big brush you're happy with putting paint on with.
Exactly. So I'm going to lighten up this value. I'm going to rinse the ultramarine out of my brush, and I'm going to do an interesting thing here. Now I'm going to just do the phthalo green, phthalo blue.
Okay.
This mixture, which is a phthalo turquoise, is the best for that clear up-close water. Add a smidge of either Indian yellow or cad yellow to it, and you are going to nail some of those incredibly cool watercolors that you see in the water on vacation. So I'm going to put these up here. See? Just this nice, cool little watercolor. So we'll just take this up there. This isn't my lightest color. I'm going about 2 shades darker through here because I'm blocking in. I'm just getting a sense of these things as I'm coming in. Sense it. Do you sense it?
I do.
I
Just getting
sense
some
it.
paint in there.
Now I love this through here. And again, I might be more tempted. I might have pulled a raw sienna and some other colors, right? But for the purposes of this, you don't need to necessarily go out and buy new paint every time. You know, it's nice to get it. And if you're painting a lot and doing a lot of landscapes, I would have more than less colors.
Okay.
Right? But, you know, hey, budget's a budget. And you can paint a lot with primary, so...
Yeah.
Don't stress yourself out. So see how we have the dark, cool water behind and the warmer, greener water up front. We're going to lighten this significantly.
Okay.
This is much darker than we need, but we need this underpainting to create our first set of value. I'm going to rinse out my brush. And I'm going to get into the sand color. So the sand color, I'm going to pull out some burnt umber and a little ultramarine blue. And I'm going to create this gray. And I'm going to gray my yellow ochre with it. See how that's grayed?
Oh, yeah.
Because I don't want it to be bright, bright yellow, but I do want it warm. And I'm going to pull a lot of white here. This is a very light color. I let a little of the blue get into it because it's okay if it has a green undercast.
Oh, yeah.
It's just more important that it's very light. But again, this is darker than my light color, so when I come back with my light, it's going to look good. So a little bit under the boat, coming around the side with this light value. We're all just relaxed and painting this in. Come around the back of the boat. And you can see I'm just blocking it in.
Yeah.
Right? So this is a very relaxed method of creating art. If you were like outside, painting on the beach, you would be working very quickly trying to just capture tones and values, right? I'm going to add a little more yellow to my mixture. And come in, and this front part will be warmer because it's the closest part, right? More yellow. And we're just blocking this in. One of the nice things you learn from doing abstract work is to look at a piece and go, simply what's important here. If I were to remove elements and details and information, what would still be important to me as a painter? You know, what do I still want to see in that space? Take my ultramarine over to my burnt umber. I want this to be bluer than gray, to have a distinctive blue tone to it. And I'm going to come under my boat with this blue-gray. Yeah? Oh, is my sound up? Okay. So I'm just, so notice that I'm using a blue, and through this whole shadow, we're going to be casting quite a lot of blue. Quite a lot of blue through this whole shadow, toned back with burnt umber.
Mm.
In fact, I don't intend to get into my black at any point on this painting.
So you'll be using a chromatic?
All my values will be chromatically created.
Gotcha. And that means, chromatically means you're going to mix colors to make black rather than using black.
You've been here so long.
I have the vocabulary down. People keep asking me, so what do I paint? I'm like, I don't paint. I understand.
But you've been listening to a painting for a really long time.
Yeah, I'm like, you know, the person who works in the front office of a mechanic shop. You know, I know everything you guys talk about. Probably couldn't do any of it.
I'm gonna take a little of my phthalo over to my burnt sienna.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to, along the keel here, right, I'm going to paint this sort of like brown. This is going to be my deep color here. The trick to this aged wood is going to be having deep values underneath. And this dark, deep value coming up is really going to be our friend. And we want friends right now.
Friendly colors, friendly faces.
Friendly. Friendly friends. We've got lots of friends. Friendly, friendly friends. Oh, that's right. I watched that show. So I was saying to John that I just realized the other day that I'm a person who might watch like 14 years of people working in an office. 8 years of people walking all over Westeros.
I don't know. It was we saw.
It's just shocking realizations that you may be a total crazy person. So I'm going to actually again start sketching in this part. I'm going to put in my dark blue.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to want to deepen it. I'm going to actually take my phthalo and a little of my ultramarine, a little of my burnt umber. And this is going to be quite a dark value, and I'm going to paint this part of the boat. See how dark that is?
Hold on a second. I pushed the wrong button. I messed something up there.
And I'm going to take this to, I'm going to come around the front. I mean, I'll be lightening it up and stuff, but this part will come back here. About halfway. I won't even start lightening it up, changing its value set at all. Taking this here. Just a little a little thought, sketching in my darks and lights. Not worried about it. So what overwhelms people on some of these zoomed in paintings is just understanding what's important, what you keep, and what you don't keep.
Yeah.
I'm going to add a little more blue in this mix and come around this side because, believe it or not, there's a reflection that comes up from the sand on this side of the boat.
I saw that. It's really interesting. You can see the reflection on this on the front of the boat on there from the sand.
One of the things that will happen to you when you're painting from a photograph and you're seeing the color is a lot of times what you're seeing will kind of trick you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it's so good to have a black and white reference. So you can be like, am I seeing what I'm seeing or am I seeing something else? So this, I don't know what the names of the parts of boats are.
There's the
But
stick part and the rope part.
in the color photograph, it doesn't look as dark as it is. See?
Oh, there you go.
I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah.
See how dark it actually is? It is as
right.
dark as almost our shadow.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
So whatever I'm doing, I've got to keep that in mind.
That does make sense.
That's why I give you guys all of those resources, because it'll help you. Helps me. Helps me. So I'm going to get my dark going again. My dark going again. Are we having fun repainting along?
Yes.
So I'm going to just put that. See how deep that is?
Wow, that is deep.
And I'm going to come here under my boat right now with another bit of this, making this even more, because this will take a few layers. I'll probably have to get into my CAD red to completely chroma this out. But again, it'll be a living shadow instead of a dead shadow. And if you're trying to create pieces that are more interesting and more dynamic and more exciting to you, that'll be really helpful. As I'm coming around the side, I'm going to just not rinse my boat and get into my ultramarine blue. My brush, not my boat. Boat doesn't need a rinse. And I'm going to just, notice this is just a bit lighter.
Oh, yeah.
There we go. Just painting this. And you can even come in if you need to and be like, I'll pick up that highlight here. Okay, that's freaking me out. What's going on with my mic?
Keep occasionally picking up stuff. Weird. So.
Thank you for taking care of it, babe.
Oh, no problem.
So see how I'm creating that there?
Mm-hmm.
Now I've got a little white on my brush. An interesting place I'm going to put this right now is coming, but that's too light. And that'll happen sometimes. You'll get some lightness on there and you're like, that's too light. And I know that by looking at my black and white. That's the right light.
Oh, yeah.
See this here?
Now you got that pretty mixed evenly on your brush.
Yeah, so see this. Well, actually, no, look at this.
No? Oh.
Look at that. Look at that.
It is all marbly.
It is. I'm not an oil painter. I can have this going on. I'm all good. I'm all good.
And you like that painterly kind of mixy.
Very much. So back into my dark color. Do. Little of this. Do. Now I'm gonna whoop. Little of that. Oh, it's so dark now. It's so dark. And I'll come to the back end of the boat because there's this dark shadow back here. Don't want to lose that. Important stuff.
Right under the rear.
I might have to actually switch down to a smaller brush. So I'm going to pull off the color off that one brush and get my little cat's tongue here, rinse it out, and just do some of this interior work with this more refined. So like I try to paint as large of a brush as I can, but you know, there's a point when it's too large and I want to switch out. So I'm just making sure my dark shadow's here. There's a little bit there, but it doesn't go everywhere. There's some dark shadow here. See, I'm just looking for shadows.
Yeah.
Shadows. And then I've got this sort of I'm going to take this dark color over to my little ochre here and just work that inside here.
Oh, yeah. The interior of the boat.
The interior of the boat. Once all of my canvas is covered with this mapping, this blocking, it makes it so much easier for me to then just go through and very relaxedly paint the painting. I want to get more of my water in before I put in my mast, and I'm really definitely going to keep these twigs, these logs, and probably the vertical mast.
Yes.
Those are going to be the most challenging personally for me to put in.
Someone out there who's into boats just screamed, "The twig parts."
I don't know. There's two twigs.
I don't know what they are either.
They're twigs. Look.
They're sticks.
You look at this, a couple of sticks. I mean, maybe that's a boat part, but it looks like a couple of sticks that they have in their boat.
They're probably oars or push-off.
Maybe they're push-offy things.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I think.
Again, not sailing.
I'm not a sailor either.
Look, you haven't laughed till you've heard me do a sports painting. It's almost as funny as me doing a car painting. So we all get through where we get through, but sometimes we have loved ones in our life that like things that we're like, I don't know what any of that stuff is. So I'm going to add some of this lighter value here.
Yep.
Because that's important.
Yep. You've been known to paint a football painting and put the wrong kind of football in.
Yeah, I have. I mean, I don't know we need to point it out, but yeah, I have. I mean, has it happened? Sure. So I'm adding a little white to my mixture here, and I'm going to come along the outer ridge of this boat.
Now, is that kind of an army green there in the boat there?
Yeah, I'm using it as a warm undervalue for this weathered wood I'm going to put in a little bit.
So it'll kind of brown out as you...
Yeah, when I'm done with it, it'll be browned out. If you guys follow along with me, it'll be browned out. Everyone who fast forwards, I don't know what's going to happen to them. But, you know, use the fast forward at your own risk. Sorry.
And you're just putting some highlights on the
See,
edge
but
of the boat
doesn't
there?
that already? Look
Yeah.
at it. Look at it, look at it, look at it. It helps, doesn't it?
It does.
It helps. A lot of this is going to be behind, but that way I know where it is, and I'm like, oh, it's there.
That's really cool.
Now I want to make my water nice. So I'm going to get a different brush. And I'm just going to make some nice water. So this is, I'm going to say...
It's a black pearl filbert.
I know, but is it a 6 or an 8? Because I totally painted over the number.
It's totally dirty.
It's so dirty.
Well, hold up your 10. It looks like an 8 from here.
I think it's an 8.
Yeah, I think it's an 8.
I'm mixing my dark background color again. All right. This second layer, it's a big deal. Because this is the stuff that makes a painting feel finished. Whether, you know, I just did that big painting. If you follow me on Facebook, you saw that big kind of realistic painting that I just did.
Oh, yeah, Mike Stock.
Mike Stock. Right? John's thinking about
Mike's
turning
gone.
it into a video where I explain, like, how, because it took days. Just first of all, no, that painting took days. That was my stuck inside painting. Because there was just, you know, we couldn't leave. So I painted a big painting.
Yeah.
Because I was like, well, I got time to do that. When you do big paintings, you know, and there's a certain time commitment that we have. But these layers are, especially on bigger pieces, they make a difference to a piece looking full and rich and resolved.
Oh, man, I can't tell you. It's...
So I'm about an inch from the top with this dark value here. And I'm just brushing it softly across, right?
Oh.
Brushing it softly across. And there's a couple, I'm looking for my darker values now. Dipping in my water, coming over my ultramarine blue, my phthalo blue, and my phthalo green. I'm thinking I need to put out a little, I'm going to use a lot of blue, so.
Well,
this is my phthalo blue and my
blue.
ultramarine blue. And why do I use 2 blues? Has anyone asked that, or does everybody already know?
You know, I don't. You know, to be honest, I have been. There's been lots of questions that I have missed here. So like,
this blue is more to the red, and this blue is more to the green.
one of the questions they had here that I've seen come up is this tropical or European ocean water? And how would you know?
Oh, color of the water. Whether it's like grease. The warmer the water is, the greener cast it will have. And the deeper, colder it is, the more of this sort of red cast it will pull.
Interesting.
Just in my observation. So I'm going to bring another little value here right in the center that I'm seeing. This is in the upper right quadrant, and I'm just stroking this in, right? You can see how even though my paint's a little transparent, the depth of the underpainting really helps here.
Yeah.
And I'm going to add another of this deep value right here. Now, I have a good amount of color on my brush, so I can come get some white to just lighten it. And I don't really need to work much more. See how much lighter this is than that?
Oh, yeah.
So this is going to start to pull that in. Little trick, take a couple little dashes into your deep water. See?
Oh, yeah.
And I'm just doing this sort of little stroke. I'm like pulling back in a little stroke. I'm keeping it horizontal. Because this isn't, a windy or stormy day, so the water is going to be rippled and level.
Gotcha.
Now, this color I see coming down here. It's getting a little greener, though, as I'm coming forward. There gets to be a little more phthalo and the two phthalos. And so I want to add those in as I'm pulling forward. I'm noticing that the greener cast to it.
So, Julia.
So I'm right here. See that? All right, there we go. It's a little white and a little greener cast, and I'm pulling this forward. Julia?
This is
What
really
is
interesting.
Julia?
Julia quit high school, homeschooled herself, and lives on a sailboat in the Virgin Islands and absolutely loves this painting.
Thank you. First of all, Julia, let's all have a moment to be like, wow, chick.
That's pretty cool.
That's pretty. You have
bravery.
Mavericked your life.
Yeah.
Right there. You're like, no, I'm a rogue wave. It's happening. She's like, you can't predict me.
No, that's pretty crazy.
That is pretty crazy.
So that's in the Virgin Islands. That must be a really amazing place to be.
I would think so, right?
Yeah.
So I'm pulling this wonderful color through here, right? This sort of mid-tone, and a little bit, because I'm seeing it down the side. Right? I'm weaving these together. And then there might be a little bit of it. I'm going to put a couple dashes out here that I'm going to paint light around. One of the things that I want to make sure is that my canvas is, let's add a lot more white, that my canvas feels too much white. And all I got to do is just sort of press my pigment that's already in my brush. If I get too much white on my brush, sometimes all I've got to do is just work it through my bristles more. Perfect. Just looking for this value, right? Here we go. Just brushing, brushing, brushing. A little bit back here. This is a higher reflection. So this water that we're seeing here is actually likely reflecting sky above it. If you think of water as a rippling fluid mirror, it becomes a lot easier to paint. And I mean, I don't really even... whenever you're painting water, you're painting the reflections or the light around it. You don't paint the water itself. Water is, kind of transparent. You're painting the reflections from underneath coming up. You're painting the reflections coming down. You're painting how light is casting off of it.
Oh, yeah.
As long as you keep that in one's little head and heart, one cannot go wrong. So I'm just doing some little dashes here. See how I'm pulling this through here?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just making sure... There, I got this nice. And we want to make sure that there's some of these deep values, and I'm pulling this down through here. Isn't that nice? Now you're starting to see it, right?
Yeah. Now, on our scale of 1 to 3 in difficulty...
I was supposed to say that at the beginning, and I forgot.
Well, that's okay. We have a lot to cover.
Oh, I need to do that. I'm supposed to be putting that in the title. That was voted on. I'm gonna learn it, guys.
We're gonna work on it. So
all right.
What
So
is this?
see the values there?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. How's that looking in the back? I'm fine.
So on a scale of 1 to 3 here, This is, what would you say this is?
Okay, so when I'm thinking about this painting and I'm thinking about your experience where you might, because you guys are in varying journeys, right? I would say for some of you, this is a more challenging 2. And for some of you, this is a very relaxed 3. So we have a scale of 1 to 3 hoots, 1 being the easiest, 3 being our most challenging lesson that we generally do, unless we throw something at you, which we will call all the hoots. Which means this is a demo and you're an artist painting with me.
Yeah.
But so the hoot scale is like, I've never painted, not since high school, or maybe not since grade school. I haven't picked up a brush. I don't know it. That'd be 1, everything in the 1 range. And then the 2 is like, I've done some paintings. I either quit painting and I've come back to it, or I've painted a few paintings with you and I'm pretty confident on my dry brushing, my blending, my basic skills. 3 hoot is that, you need some more challenges. You need to learn atmospheric perspective, color theory, composition, layout, and stuff like that. So the reason this is kind of like maybe a low 3 hoot, even though it's not particularly challenging to paint, is because we're doing composition and design and theory and talking about those things.
Yeah.
Hopefully that
helps.
in no way explains it. So the front of my water, I'm going to pull out a little of my phthalo green and a little of my phthalo blue. The front of my water is quite light. Maybe I might even get some of my cad yellow. I need it to be a very light color. And what I'm looking for is just, I'm going to add so much white. There we go. So I'm going to come up the front here even more. So I'm looking for this bright value that's quite warm to the yellow, right, where this water is hitting the sand. See this?
Yeah.
And this is about the sand color and the water reflection. And so I'm just pulling this through here. I'm just making sure that this is where the water is quite thin over the sand. Here we go. Now I'm going to get a little more of my phthalo blue on my brush, like you do. But still a good amount of white. Look at this. Do you see that color?
Oh, yeah.
I think these are the funnest colors to make. Now, listen. One of the challenges for you at home, more white on my brush, is that my camera does not love the blue-green range. Something that we've discovered as we've been filming. And, of course, what do I love to paint in?
Well, it's actually the lights, but yeah.
The lights don't love the blue-green range.
The lights don't love it. We have to get our
we got to upgrade the studio.
Someday.
So I'm just painting this lighter value here. And I'm going to take some of this color into the water. You see this? How this is?
Uh-huh.
If you have Southern Ocean Blue from Matisse Paint, it's a great time to pull that sucker out and have a blast with it. Right?
Yeah.
I'm going to get some more phthalo blue on here and some more white. And I'm going to work that through my water. And even though, the phthalo is quite, green, it's going to feel very cool in this space. Now there's a weird shadow that happens up here as the water's coming in. I've got to get in. It's sort of darkening, so I'm going to get that in. And I'm going to get a little of my burnt sienna and a little of my burnt umber. Gray it a smidge with my ultramarine blue. And why do I gray my paint is really because I'm trying to make sure I don't have any saturated garish colors where I don't want them. And I took my glaze and now I'm just creating a little of this dark value right here. See what we're doing?
Yeah.
Waves cast shadows. Just back and forth. Making sure we have that little shadow back there. Everything in front of this is about to get so light. And I'm going to grab just on my brush, on the tip, some white. And notice I haven't rinsed it. A little trick of mine. And I'm just going to tap back here, this water edge. Leading up. Look at that. Tap, 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 tap this little roll of water. Tap, 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 tap. I'm going to skip over the boat and come to the other side. I'm going to tap this here. See, I'm just on the edge of my brush. See how I'm just barely on the edge? I'm not bending it. And my heavy body paint is just coming off my brush and just... How is that looking? Ah, lovely.
Very lovely.
Lovely, lovely. So that's what we're trying to do, is just create those values that we like in our painting and try to get those in there. And then, so it's just a matter of looking and going, what can I see? How are my values? So I'm back into my green. A lot of white on my paint. Pulling it into the blue I have here. Ah, I'm going to come back with some of that. And I've got to just keep, it's very important to just try to get your, how light is everything? I'm just making sure I'm very light back here. See that?
Mm-hmm.
More white. And that's what I will always be playing between. A little bit back here. Just dashing it back and forth. So see how this is a much, I don't know if it's showing on with our lights and everything, but it's a much warmer color.
Yeah.
And we're warming it up. We're going to very lightly brush this over here. I still want to leave some shadow. And I want to lighten even more here. So let's be brave and get right into our yellow. We've got our blue on here. And I'm going to really get a lot of white on my brush. It's going to pick up some of the blue I have around it. I'm going to make sure that behind this white I am doing a little bit of this warm, warm, warm. Yep. Sorry, it's just important stuff. It is hot in the studio today, John.
Yeah.
So see how we're pulling this back?
Yeah.
We're just making sure that these values are... And if I've got to go over my boat, I can put my boat back. I'm not stressed about that part. We're almost done with the water. We just want to make sure that we get this effect. Right? Otherwise, it won't be everything we love in the painting.
Mm.
And we want it to be everything we love in the painting. So we stay at it until we get there. I'm going to need clean water soon. Now I'm going to come back with just a little more white one last time along my front lip. But I'm getting there. See how I'm getting there now? Stay at it. Feel it. Look at it. Look at your black and white reference. Look at your color reference. This is my white, 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 white. This is helping my water back here going to be different than the sand in front of it.
Oh. There's some folks asking questions here, and I was trying. So.
Oh, happy to.
Oh yeah. So there were. Vivid was just asking.
I need a sip of water, anyways.
She was like,
water's in. I need a sip of water. We got the water. And how are you guys doing on your water?
Really good. I'll go get you some water here. So just to answer a couple of quick questions.
That is water, actually.
Oh, okay. So there's where are the pictures at? We have all of these references can be seen up on our website, right?
Yep. I don't know. Did you put them up?
Mm-hmm.
Then they're all up there. Traceable. These references given to John.
Yep. And Vivid was asking specifically where she could see a picture of that painting, which has this one, which hasn't been posted up anywhere yet.
All right. So John did film me doing it, and we're thinking of making a video where I just talk about the process of painting larger, because obviously a painting that takes days is not conducive for a tutorial.
Right. Our stuck inside painting is what she keeps calling it.
Stuck inside painting. So we'll put something up about that.
Yeah,
and
we'll get that
we never
posted.
know. We might make a smaller version of that. As we don't know what we're going to do.
Yeah,
we just don't know what
you'll
we're
see.
gonna do.
We'll get it posted up here, you guys. We'll show you what's happening there, and get you some more information on it here shortly.
More information shortly. All right, let's lighten this up because we have this bright, bright, bright area, don't we?
Yeah.
So let's take a little of our burnt and a smidge of our ochre. Right? Great. Smidge of our ochre and a little of our burnt. I may wipe off on the towel so I don't have too much pigment on my brush. And I'm going to come into my white. And I'm going to get this very, very creamy off. Sometimes what I'll do is if I'm trying to see like my value set, I'll be like, is this too dark? Is that light enough?
Oh, you just go right on there.
And I'm like, do I feel like that's light enough? And I can compare a couple of, see?
Oh, yeah.
I can find that space.
You just dial it up and down.
Dialing it up and down. Did I get too far? Did I get not enough? So even though it's a grayscale, it can still teach me what I need to know about where I am on my value. Because all of this is going to be just pointless if we don't have a nice value set. Now I'm doing an interesting thing here. It's a little bit like pointillism where I'm just taking a little bit of this light color and feathering it into my dark color. That's another way of optically blending paint.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So I'm not blending wet into wet, right? Not feathering wet into wet. Because these colors are next to each other, they're optically blending.
You're dithering.
I am dithering. Dithery, dithery, do. You know, I can always come back with my boat and push it back forward. I'm just making sure.
Don't push the boat.
Push my boat line back forward. See? So we've got this nice bright. Isn't that bright?
Yeah.
This is big in this world. The sand, it needs dither, dither, dither. Dither along your shadow. And see how the sand has warmed up and become sandier?
It has become sandier. And
Sandier.
it looks like a beach because it has that greeniness under it.
Yep.
Makes it more look alive.
It does. Living paintings have color. So I'm... It actually weirdly gets lighter right there. So I'm going to get even a little more white on my brush right here. Right here. It's a subtle thing. Bigger your painting gets, bigger a deal that is. Just saying.
So Julia was curious what kind of palette paper you're using.
I'm using the Gray Matters palette paper. This is for plain air painters and just happens to work really well for our camera.
Yep.
So what's nice about it is on the gray, you can see the paint a little better.
Yeah.
I'm rinsing out. I've switched out my water. I've switched out my water, y'all. Now this front is a little more yellow and it has some shadows and it has a couple of elements and I really want to get those in because I feel like without them, it's not going to look really great. And so I'm going to put in, I think the easiest thing for me to see from my reference is my shadows. So I'm going to start trying to lay those in as accurately as I can.
Ooh.
And I'm going to need some more burnt umber.
So,
probably more cad yellow and cad red is all drying on my palette.
I have a new name challenge.
A new name challenge?
So Aslan, I think, is her name. So Aslan was asking, can we use sand texture for gel in the sand? Would that look good?
It would look very good. You still have to paint all the values. So here's my thing on texture, right? Because I've done this a lot, where you use a sand texture.
Yeah.
This is great to do because it increases perceived value of your painting between you and a collector. Mm-hmm. You might not know that, but it does. And so basically what that means is it's more exciting to them. So they're more likely to be like, I have to take that home because texture. Everybody likes texture.
Visual. We like that stuff.
Where I see artists really struggle with their sand texture is they rely on the sand texture to create the feeling of sand instead of paying attention to the values that the sand made to make.
Yeah.
So do both, and if you're someplace, you win. If that makes sense. Does that make sense? Like if everybody's got sand texture, but your sand texture has value, you win.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever you win. I don't know. I'm making my, I'm using my ultramarine blue and my burnt umber again to make my dark value, right? My shadow value. So I'm gonna make a couple shadows. One shadow that I'm definitely seeing is cast from the mast over to the right. So I'm gonna get some glaze on my brush so it'll come off my brush nicely. I'm gonna come right over here and make sure I have that, because that's clearly an important shadow. And I can even, this shadow is weirdly warmer than what I'm painting here, so I'll have to come back and warm it up. And now I'm gonna get my shadow color, which is very blue, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Very important. And I'm going to make some deep shadows. Like there's a nice little sand bit here, so I'm going to make sure that I've got a nice little shadow there. And we're just making sure that we have some sandy shadows. It's hard to do, worthwhile.
Just little divots in the sand where people's
Divots
feet.
in the sand. And some of your shadows begin to warm up, so go into the burnt sienna. Weird deal. But they do. They warm up. So some of your shadows are cool, living shadows, and some of your shadows are warm. You're going to need to find a way to talk about both of those through here. I'm scooping this in, I'm going back and forth. Everywhere I'm putting a low light, I'm looking at my reference, trying to find interesting shadows to talk about, so that when I come to paint my sand, it's not just a slightly darker color of yellow, which is not going to be exciting to anybody at all.
Oh yeah, I like those little.
I'm going to get a little yellow because there was some real yellow shadow here.
Right now, you're just putting in the shadows.
I'm doing my darkest values. I can always come back and adjust them, but
You're going to be putting little highlights on the other side of those, huh?
yep, got to put some highlights in, and hopefully, when they come together, they're going to feel very authentic. We hope. We really, really, really hope. That's the goal. So we're gonna put some of these little. See that there? Little warm shadows.
Yeah.
Out here. Important stuff. Oh, good. Okay. So I've got this sort of like yellow warmed color now. And I'm going to come into my white. And I'm going to do some of my brighter values of sand. That's what I'm going to be working. More white, brighter value of sand. Brighten up the sand. But what we're not going to do is just paint sand beige color. We're going to avoid that at all costs.
just an even tone of beige.
Well, I mean, you guys are painting at home. I'm painting here on YouTube, so when I have a moment, everybody, likes to share with me
You could just
that I have.
just find your khaki pants color and just paint it.
Yeah.
One even tone.
Yeah. So see how I'm just trying to, and I'll come back and I'll just keep looking for those values, those feelings, those feels. So maybe a little yellow and a little more white. I still think I need another lighter value here to go over everything. One more value up, actually.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to do something kind of crazy. I'm going to rinse out my brush a little bit. Pick up my base sand color. I'm gonna be a nutter and add just a smidge of cad to it. Just a smidge. And I'm going to check that on my black and white paper. Right, so I don't know if it helps you guys to see it.
Yeah.
So, like, see, I'm looking at my black and white paper. Like, do I feel like that's a light enough value?
Oh yeah.
See how that's helping me? That way I'm not tricked by my color.
You're just making those little highlights on that other side.
Yep.
So Sharon,
Hi, Sharon.
Just curious, which shade of phthalo green and blue to use for Southern Ocean blue?
Okay, so Southern Ocean blue is phthalo blue green shade and phthalo green yellow shade.
There you go. I could not. That was almost another language for me.
Yeah, I'm working on some stuff to just. We're trying to figure out how can we just make some of this color stuff so easy, and also get you guys some references. So, hang in with us. We are thinking about your experience. Dithers. Dithery, dithery, do. So see how it's starting to become a different kind of sandy beach?
Mm-hmm.
Different kind of sandy beach. How's that sand look? Let me see. I'm getting kind of happy with it. Getting kind of happy with it. Not perfectly happy with it, but getting kind of happy with it.
Yeah, I like them.
Getting kind of happy with it.
That button. There you go.
Getting kind of happy with it. Getting kind of happy with it. I've mixed my yellow ochre and my burnt sienna. I'm just trying to... I'm grabbing a little burnt sienna because I feel like there's this sort of like red to this. Getting my glaze. And I'll just work at it till I'm happy. You just work at it till you're happy. You know, that's what you're doing, is you're just working at it till you're happy. Get back into my nothing like your ultramarine to cool your shadow, right?
Yeah.
Nothing like it. All right, so see how I went right into the ultramarine?
Oh, yeah.
Liking that. Get some glaze.
You slide out just a touch there as you're working that edge.
And I'm just going to make sure that I've got some of these in the sand here and there so that we see that it's maybe along here a little bit with the blue. And just along there. How are we doing? How are we doing? Getting there. Getting there.
You're looking really good.
Getting there, getting there, getting there. And that's just really what I'm trying to do, is I'm just trying to get there. Try to get there. I'm going to give myself a little rest here.
Yeah.
Rinse out my brush. I'm going to come work this a bit. So
the
this,
shadowy side.
Yeah, this is a little bit of my ultramarine and burnt sienna. And so let's say there's a little bit of a shadow here, and it's more warm. Because what are we doing? We're doing living shadows, right?
And by that, you mean shadows that have dynamic
lighting in them. We're avoiding using black to shade our paint and just white to tone our paint. We're going beyond those simple processes into the processes of what makes it feel like, you know, what it is. And so up close to the boat, it is okay that there's a warmth all around the boat, because the boat has, and I'm going to come back with some cad orange and some stuff later, because it has this reflection in it.
Now that's what a lot of people are really, really impressed with, is that how 3D the boat looks and how it looks like it's laying on the sand.
It's gonna.
And already it really does look that way. And why is that? Because of your tonal studies? Is that because?
Yeah. Now, if I was just really, really, really working this out, I would have done a grayscale study of this first. Just to make sure that I had all my values, because you can kind of paint any colors you want if you have your grayscale study down. But now I'm using like the sense of cool and bright colors and trying to see the colors that I'm seeing. And that's going to make this feel, if I can show that the red in this reflects in the sand, right? And the sand reflects on the boat, they'll look like they belong in the world together.
Right.
because they've influenced each other artistically. If that makes sense.
Yes, it does. Totally.
Okay, so I'm coming here. I'm just trying to do the same thing. I just want to make sure that I've got some little, little bits of this here. I'm going to get much more blue. More blue. More blue. Use my glazing medium. I love my glazing medium.
So, Eleni was asking, is it ever good to use black?
Yes. Black is not, it's not a terrible color. And it shades values so well, right? Like, so you've got a great hue you like. It's another way of shading that value. What happens to people, I think, is that they use it where they don't see it. They think they see it, but they don't actually see it. Right? There's only a couple places on this painting that you could even remotely say that you probably are seeing black, which is maybe here, and there's a little area up here.
Yeah.
So, I'm going to just make sure that this is nice here. All right. One of the things, I'm going to get crazy here. Crazy. Get phthalo. A little phthalo and a little ultramarine. See that there? How blue that is? I'm going to add a little burnt to it, but it's still got that phthalo. Get some glaze. Oh, I don't know. Here we go. Yep. Really bluing it. See this here?
Yeah.
I'm really bluing it. I'm not blowing it, I'm bluing it. I'm adding a little white to it. I might normally go zinc white in this area, but again, I didn't want you guys to have to buy a bunch of paint, so see how I've added a little white? I'm just coming out and but it's all in shadow, isn't it?
Yeah.
Look at that, look at that. Shadow, shadow, blue, blue, blue.
Yeah.
Blue shadow. Dynamic shadow. And for you guys who are like, man, I need a shorter painting. We have that coming up.
Tomorrow
there'll be a shorter painting for sure.
Now that we have our intertubes back and things are a little bit more normal.
Normalized. Now I'm getting a little more ultramarine blue and some white. I'm coming forward. See that?
Yes.
Isn't that crazy how, let me see the paint. See, it doesn't, it looks like a shadow, not water. It's the strangest thing. Dynamic shadow. But what happens is when you paint a shadow and you don't just gray it out, the painting just feels so alive. Feels so alive.
Mm-hmm.
Whoop. I'm just getting a better angle up here because I want this to
put some more paint there.
Yeah. More paint here. Use my glaze. I just want to make sure that we've got some nice coverage here. So see how we're at now? A little burnt and a little ultramarine. A little burnt and a little ultramarine. Just bringing it out. A little burnt, a little ultramarine.
That's pretty cool.
All right, now I need to darken a couple areas even. I need to get darker under here. That's going to be my ultramarine and my phthalo blue, my burnt umber, and my cad red. Nope, even more blue. There we go. See that there?
Yeah.
We're going to come under here. That is our darkest value that I'm using on the painting. We're just making sure that this, let me get a little water on my brush so I get a nice flow off of it. I want to make sure this comes up my boat beautifully. All right. Looking at that. Oh, loving it.
Yeah.
I love painting this kind of stuff. I really do. It's super fun. There is, well, I've got my darkest shadow. I'm going to get a little white because underneath here, there's a little reflection that got caught in the light.
It picked up some
Just
light.
a little bit. See, that's the thing that you got to realize is that things are not.
They pick up a little glow off the boat.
Yep. They will, and these little things matter. All right. I'm pretty good. All right, I can put in some, I got to put in my mast, which, is going to be challenging for me.
A stick. A straight stick.
Straight
Whatever
stick
will you
is
do?
the bane of my existence. Y'all don't even know.
Yeah.
But I think, no, I'm going to definitely get my little straight stick in. So I feel like, okay, straight stick is going to be about here for me. Boat people, don't scream at me. Boat people, don't scream at me.
The boat people.
I'm using a ruler because I just don't draw that straight of a line, so.
That's okay.
You know, that's my thing. Now, coming across the front of the boat here and back at an angle.
Resting on its little mast stay.
On its mast stay, which is going to be, I was going to like, man, compositionally I don't love it, but I think I got to keep it factually. So there's this interesting thing in painting where you're like, compositionally I may not love something, but factually I'm stuck with it.
Well, you could get rid of it.
Well, how would it stay?
It would just be hanging by a piece of rope.
All right, then I'm going to do that.
Wouldn't necessarily.
Because I feel like these two lines across from each other are really powerful. I'm not sure how I feel about this bit coming up. And that's something that you've got to think about as an artist. You're like, I'm going to give myself my little rounded ellipse.
So that's generally where in a boat like this, it's set up on that post, so it's easier to row and get around underneath the boat while you're bringing it into and out of the shore.
See, and that's the thing. Then you got to be like, then is everyone going to be looking? See, that's whenever you're painting something where there's a group of people that are highly informed on the subject matter. Sometimes you're stuck including things where you're like, well, I don't really feel that, but you know, whatever.
Well, see that's your boat may not have that feature.
I have got some boards a little bit in perspective. So what that basically means is they're going to be wider as they're closer to me and taper away as they vanish. This is a nice thing to make sure that I show. You know, there's going to be a little shadow here. So I just need to know what they think about the stay. And I'm going to come here and I'm going to just give myself a little aid by drawing in a couple features that I really, really need to make sure I've captured. Like the ridge of this.
Mm-hmm.
And I like using my chalk pencil because it's going to vanish for me. Definitely going to have to have that white stripey. So I feel like on the boat, that's a lovely, lovely touch. And then we've got this edge of the boat. This here. I'm feeling pretty good about these elements. Still might do sticks. Still might do it. Still might. Hard to say. Might change that up a little bit as that paint comes down.
Draw your little
Make sure that I've got
there.
that little foreshortened belly bit. Belly bit. Belly bit's important, I can tell. Probably about how the boat floats.
I think it's where its resting water line is supposed to be.
See, Mariner people don't do like stuff just because, no reason. They always have some reason for everything they've got going on. How are we doing so far? I need a sip of water. How are you guys doing? Bubble me, baby.
Good. There you go.
Let's celebrate we got this far in the painting.
We have gotten really far in the painting.
This is a really beautiful painting that you're doing.
It really is. And we've had a huge crew of people. We got over 500 people here with us this entire time. And even our kids are in here enjoying the bubbles when we do the bubble party. Spider-Man's over here enjoying the bubbles too. So thank you guys for coming and hanging out with us. I can't wait to see all these boats myself as they come together.
Go big with the boat.
Yeah. And there's been a lot of people here with us today, Cinnamon. They're very, very excited about the boat. Very happy with where this is going. So, and there's been a lot of new people. I see lots of new faces, along with a lot of people we normally see here too. So, thank you guys for coming and joining us today, being part of our family and hanging out with us. That's really nice.
Hey guys. Thank you for painting with me. I just want to say that to you right now. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being brave. Art can be a little bit scary, especially more challenging paintings. And I really appreciate that so many of you guys have been like, yeah, let's take on some more challenge. I love doing my fast, simple 20-minute paintings. But it's fun to do these full pieces where you guys can see how all those skills come together. I feel like Mr. Miyagi all the time.
Well,
wax on, wax off. You're a martial artist now.
I'll repeat a couple of things that that some of the folks out here have said, because I know you don't get a chance to see them. But Maureen,
Maureen.
She was saying that thank you for all that you do, teaching, inspiration, positivity. It's a beautiful lesson, and she just loves that you're doing that for us. And I saw a couple people earlier here were asking, when you got into teaching and why you did, because you're such a great teacher. Oh, Elizabeth.
Hi, Elizabeth.
Or no, it's let me see here. This is Elizabeth.
Elizabeth.
She has a it says maybe a European name. It's very. It's got the
We plead American.
Complex consonants compressed together.
Don't give us a bunch of consonants. We need a lot of vowels between our consonants. Yes. Have you noticed that about us as a people? Give us as many vowels as you can between consonants, because we get all befuddled.
But thank you guys. We love having you guys here. It's really great. And Brittany loves the boats. Give all the boat emojis.
Boat emojis are so good. Thank you for the boat emojis. You know what I need, babe, though?
Do you need some water?
I do, because everything's going to get green on me if I don't.
All right, I'll come over and get
some
some water.
I'll talk to you about this. See how my water is getting very murky? So this is a good time to give myself fresh water. I know you guys think a lot about, like, how can I dispose of my water? And I want to answer something here really quick. Acrylic paint water, right? So the acrylic polymers are in the water. And as the water settles, those can settle as well. Those are the solids. In your plumbing, it can be over time damaging to your plumbing, because it can stick to your plumbing. And so a lot of people like to follow golden paints and some different reclamation processes where they evaporate the water and then you just collect the solids and just the solids get thrown away. And that's something that's perfectly acceptable to do, just so you know. But definitely during your painting, you do need to change your water out as it's getting dirty. Another thing you can do to reduce that is to wipe your brush off on a towel to get excessive paint off of your brush and onto the towel. Because again, when acrylic paint is dry, even when it's cadmium paint, it's really quite inert. It's just when it's in its more painterly state that it's a thing. Just people might not know that, and so I'm sharing that.
Yes.
And as I'm rinsing this out, see, I had a lot of blue in it.
Yes, you did.
I did. So much blue. Ooh, I'm so blue. I'm a bee-ba-do-bee-ba-do-ba. I'm going to grab a number 4 bright. So I've got a very stiff filament here and a great edge, and I'm going to take advantage of this time. And first, I'm going to take my phthalo blue and my ultramarine and my burnt umber, and I'm going to create kind of a shadow here. Shadow value.
The shadow value.
And I'm going to paint in my mast. I still haven't decided. I'm just brushing. I'm following inside my lines. I'm putting in my shadow first.
Okay.
Then I'll come in with my highlight. Can't see my lines that I finished it with. You know how hard that is? Do you have any idea? Probably not.
I do not.
So this is always a challenge for me between where the implied line continues. See? It's just always a challenge for me. I'm going to add a nice like dark value right here because I know that would be here. And I'm going to come and I'm going to actually have to put out a little paint. This is all dried on me. What happens to me is while I'm painting, my paint skins.
And we have a pretty rough studio for that, too.
We do have a terrible studio for that. Right now, the Sherpa is baking. I don't imagine I'm going to use that much more cad yellow. If I do, I'll put it out last again. But I definitely will be with all the rest of the colors that I've been using. No green. This is going to be the ultramarine blue. Now, for me, it's really easy to tell the difference between my ultramarine, my phthalo blue, my manganese blue. They all look very different to me. That may not be your experience. And if it's not, it's super normal for you guys to have trouble seeing the difference between the colors. So feel like it's all right to have to label your paint. Right? Like if you're not seeing... To me, it's like very, very different. But again, I know it's a normal experience for somebody to feel like those are very much the same color.
Yeah.
Very normal. Putting on some white. Probably going to mist it. Mist in it. And I'm going to... Don't have too much left to do.
Nope. It's getting pretty close.
We're getting close. This is that bit. Have you noticed in the paintings that there's this sort of like... Then the last bit happens and then the painting comes together.
And it goes, whoa.
Yeah.
And the light, the clouds part, and the choir sings, and the horns
put
play.
A smidge of the cad red into this. And I'm going to come here and back here. Look at that. Wipe off my brush, get a little more of my yellow ochre. And then there's a little of this right here coming across this board. The rest of it's pretty much just the yellow ochre. I'm going to add some white to it. And just lightly brush my board over the top. And then this right here is quite light, so we're going to brush that right there. We'll come back with a little bit of blue that we have there in a bit. I'm going to lightly come over the top of this. And see how the boards happened?
Yeah, they just kind of come together there.
So we need to make our shadow color in our boards. But we know how to make that at this point, don't we?
I love when you say the shadow color.
Shadow color, shadow. Which is our two blues and either our, look at my paint, my burnt umber or my burnt sienna.
I can't
Now,
help.
this is going to be good, easy for me because I have a very sharp edge brush. Use a brush that gives you good line. See that there?
Yeah.
There you go.
And those little boards they just came right in, didn't they?
Yep, they did.
That's great.
And you just have to loves it.
It is. They just pop right together.
You has to loves it, loves it, loves it. Because it loves you. I'm going to just let my brush be dirty. And get my yellow ochre. And come paint in this board, this pole. See that? So my brush was still dirty and I'm just painting this in. Now, one thing that I did here is I tapered this. Right? You guys have the traceable, but I tapered this. And I do think it'll be better with just we'll have to see. We'll have to make that decision. But that's something you have to think about as an artist. Do I want to keep everything here? What do I have to keep?
And, you know, it's a...
we have this really cool red sail that this guy has, which I think is pretty awesome.
It's all rolled up. We don't know what kind of sail it is.
It's a sail, though.
It is a sail.
And it's kind of red. And I kind of dig it because the blue boat.
We can kind of tell what kind of sail it is by the kind of boat it is and the
Sure.
things, but
I'm going to get my shadow color again. Just make sure that I've got this. See that right there?
yeah.
Yay!
Boats are always so
Come along
romantic.
the back side of this, interestingly enough. Just lightly with a very fine line. Back side of that. And then I'm going to put in my highlight on my pole, which is a grayed out. So I'm going to get my shadow color and gray out my ochre. But I still want it to be kind of, you know, warm and yellow.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to get the value of my white until I'm there, and I'm going to come on this side. First, I'm going to come down my nice crisp line. Whenever the sunlight is very bright, you will see a combination of very crisp and soft lines. And it's why a lot of people like oil paints, because oil paint does soft lines really well. But you know what? Conversely, acrylic does hard lines incredibly well. So every medium has an area that it is just a superstar. And our medium is a superstar in the sharp lines versus soft lines category. Just saying.
Mm-hmm.
It's awesome sauce. So I'm just making some more shadow color and making sure that I've got a nice value. See, coming forward, I'm softening the line a bit because I'm dry brushing the shadow forward. So the hard line of the light here and that nice other line. So let's put in real quick our floaty bag, our baggy bag, which we're going to say is our sail.
Our floaty bag.
You don't know, it's this floating on the sail baggy thing. What? I didn't say that. What? What? All right.
The sail.
So I'm going to just kind of think about its shapes a little bit. All right. It's going to do that for me.
Well, you got to have the sail just sort of be tied up on there, so it's hanging out there.
It's going to need a dark shadow too.
Yeah.
The dark shadow. It's what it's got. And we're going to use that and some cat orange to totally, totally rock this thing. All right. So here's some sail. We like sails. Sailors like sails. They feel pretty good about them.
Yep.
So it's tied around here. And then it maybe comes down a little bit here. Now we have that laid in. That's super helpful. That's a lot more of our boat painted, isn't it? Uh-oh. Are we still on?
Yep.
Whoa, I would be so upset if we had to re-upload.
No, we're doing good.
I'd be like tripping out hard, John.
That's why we have battery backups.
Looks like I needed to take this forward anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't know, I'm not worried about it, but I will do it. I'm going to take this forward a little bit because I'm seeing that now in relationship to which part of the boat? This part of the boat. So that's just something you're always looking for, is like how things are in relationship to each other.
Mm.
How are they in relationship to each other? I don't know. You have to figure that out. Let's paint in all the rusticness. So I'm going to take a little of my burnt umber and a lot of my ultramarine, right? But I just want it grayed a little bit. And I'm going to get into my white. And come here and start talking about this side of my boat. The highlight on this side of my boat.
Yeah.
Right. Gonna wipe off my brush. Get some more white. brushing up, brushing over. This is a very light thing, and all I'm trying to do is just talk about the light edge value on this side. See this? Now, wipe off your brush. And I'm going to come back with a little white. And paint this side of this blue boat.
Ian's like, it's a good thing we don't have the Sailors Institute watching today. They would probably be having a heart attack.
Why?
The floaty bag thingy.
Would they? Would they care? Would it really bug anybody? I don't know. So see how I've kind of created that rustic paint feeling here?
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I'm missing anything, I can always wipe off my brush and come back. See, I haven't rinsed it, and so the pigment's on there. And just be like, you know, I got a little bit of this right here. I'm going to come right here and apply my blue stripe, my white stripe. See that white stripe going right there? Chalking that in really helps me a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Now I've got some light color here, so I'm going to just go ahead and use it a bit. Because it reflects on this side of a very shiny, shiny boat. Get a little more of my white paint.
Now, typically, white stripes are generally known for their simple bass line and lead guitars. But
what? I need to sketch in my other side of white stripe. Where did my sketch go? There it is.
I don't know where
Dropping
your
things
sketch went.
left and right. It's because I didn't want to have to worry about it here, because this is more challenging for me than you'd know. Because I've got to follow the curve of the boat and make sure that parallel through a complex minor curve here. There we go. Make a big difference. I'll often say to John, like when things are rough, like I can just paint a bunch of these boats and feed us.
He's like, have to learn what they're called, though.
No, I just have to paint them pretty well. So I'm gonna do my shadow again on the front here. So I've made my darker blue using my ultramarine and my burnt umber, and I'm coming on the front here. And then if there's any place I need to put this, I'm just looking, I could probably put some of this darker blue under the just trying to make sure. So this is still my darkest blue up top, which we know we've seen. But I've got to create that shadow. And I'm definitely going to want some right here that's dark. Now, I can have a lighter blue right there. Ultramarine is my friend for this part of the boat. Phthalo blue would be too green. Just lightly with this lighter shade of blue. I'm going to come back and finish the stick in a minute. Right. As I'm coming here, I can add this. I'm dry brushing this. Kind of around the side. Kind of around the side. There we go. And then right here. Sort of mid-tone blue. And remember, you can always check this. Let's dry brush right here. You can always check this against your black and white photo. Like, is that too light? Is it too dark? What is it? Mm-hmm. So I'm going to get more and more blue, just blue. Needs a little white. Just a smidge to bring out the color. There we go. One of the things about ultramarine blue is it's quite deep, but you add a little white and it brings out the color.
Mm-hmm.
And that's important. I had too much white on my brush, and so I just wiped it off. And we're just going, going, going. And then as I come here, I'm going to dry brush this blue. I don't want to take out this deep area right here because that's the board, and I'm dry brushing, dry brushing. I'm going to hit boards in a minute, but first I've got to get some more white back on my brush.
Oh, these are the reflections of off the sand, huh?
Yep, need them. They're important. I can always put these boards in. I can always get my white stripe in, but I got to have these reflections if the boat is going to really feel like you want it to feel.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm going to wipe this off, get some white on my brush, and come get my white stripe in.
Now
I got to gray that one right there and here. So I got to make sure that I'm not doing too bright of a stripe right through here. That'll be important.
now
If it's too bright, it won't feel real.
yeah, that white just trying to give you that reflection of the sand impression there.
Just an impression of the sand being reflected up into the boat.
Gotcha.
You know, it's so interesting. A lot of times when people see a close-up painting, they think it's easier.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't realize that there's a lot more involved in that. And it's easier to sit there and do that far-off landscape because there's less to talk about.
Yeah.
But don't you want to talk about it?
I do.
Yeah,
I want
we
to see
all
you
do.
paint it. I want to watch you paint it.
Okay, so I've got my darker stripe here. We just definitely want this to be darker in a couple spots as it comes around the boat. Trick. And I'll probably need to sketch it in because my hand is what it is. But I'm going to make sure that I put in a couple board lines because the boat has a couple deep board lines, doesn't it? And if I don't have them, well then I don't have them. So I'm going to make my dark color again. Little cad red. Let's make sure it's loaded up on the boat. Are we all doing okay?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's bored?
Nope, nope.
See how I'm making this thin board line, this shadow? And then I'm going to reinforce this right here. If I get a little thick with this, I'll need to come back with some blue and trim it out.
Mm-hmm.
Not the worst thing that ever happened to me. It's just something that I'll need to do. See? How are we doing? Let me see the boat.
Oh, the boat.
Looking
it's looking
so good.
It is looking so good.
So good.
I'm really enjoying that.
I can't wait to do this part. It's so exciting. So weird. So one of the fun things is I'm going to take my dark color and there we go. More burnt and get some of my yellow and a bunch of my white. Right here, there's this weird kind of keel that's sort of dry and damaged.
Peeking out of the...
Yeah, and I definitely want to bring a little of that color, interestingly enough, right here, because the sand is what? Reflecting up. Look at that. Crazy? Did you know it? You didn't know it. Dry brush this right here. I'll come back with some more shadow, but this is just something I need to make sure that's on here, because there's a lot of it. Rinse that out. Now let's start talking about why we brought out some cad red light. This is going to, in our burnt sienna, really make this whole piece pop. Look at that.
Wow.
I'm going to very lightly brush over. Right. Just start putting that in there. There we go. There's certainly a bit of it over here. Right there.
That's so nice, yeah.
Isn't that lovely?
Yeah. I like how that red just warms
There's
everything
a
up.
little bit right here. And rinse out. Now the next bit is more brown. So I'm going to get my deeper brown, which is my burnt, into this mix. I'm going to go over the front here, bringing this down. I'm going to come get this, and this is the side. It's sort of in shadow, but lighter than the front. A little more of the red here. Now let's get a little of our yellow ochre into this craziness. Lightly dry brushing right here. Come here as well. Look at that.
Wow.
I'm going to add a little light here. And I think we need a little darkness right there, which we know is our ultramarine and our, but I want it to be more umber. There we go. And that gives our boat that shape that we're needing. Let's make sure we add a little of this rusticness here. A little rusticness here. We don't want anything feeling too chipper. Right? Nothing too chipper, my friend. Let's shadow this. Interestingly enough, there's quite a lot of blue over the top of our board, so I'm going to make sure I get that there. Dynamic living shadows. There we go. And now I'm going to definitely paint in my mast part.
The mast part?
My mast part, which
stick
is not
in the middle of the
last part. Well, actually, let me get some blue. I got to put some blue back here.
That annoying stick in the middle of the boat?
Hmm?
The mast?
Yeah. So I'll come back with some of that later. There we go. See these little things and you go, oh, I got to deal with that. I can't wait to do this part. But let's create a little highlight. Let's get a little of our ochre out and a little white. And on this, let's very lightly dry brush across this. See that? Because this is in the bright sun, isn't it? And even a little bit of this. Just dusting it out here. Need to create that shape. We need to darken this fabric here. But we know how to make our dark color, our phthalo blue, ultramarine, our burnt umber. And we're going to take some of this right over the top, this dark shadow. Right over the top. A little bit right under here. Some right here. There's a shadow right here where this folds out. Of course, you can pull up some like shadows wherever you want the fabric to fold. Just an important thing to know. Wherever you want the fabric to fold. And I'll put one out there. Now, this is going to be a little burnt sienna, a little yellow ochre, and some cad red. Here we go. Touching that up. Brushing this over, paying attention to the folds of the fabric, right? Bring this red all the way out, and then we're going to have to come back with the gold. Once I have that, rinsing. Let's take a little bit of this color over to our gold, so it's just toned. Let's grab a lot of white. Adding this to some of the fabric. See how we're folding this outer edge here? Look at that.
Wow.
Sorry. Sometimes I get excited when I paint. But I'm just loving how this is looking and how the boat is feeling and how it's come together. Now, I imagine the ropes are important to everybody. And I still have to decide if I want to do the twigs. I think at this point I just want to do the ropes. I'm going to just make her dark color. I'm going to definitely use a ruler, though, because I don't make a straight line.
And you can talk with that brush in your mouth pretty good, too, huh?
Can I?
I don't know. Can you?
I hold brushes in my mouth all the time. It's my other hand.
That's your rope guide there?
Mm-hmm.
And you put another piece of rope over there so that I can hold up your mast?
Okay.
That's going to be important because without your mast stay, you're going to have something to hold the rope up.
I'm not saying that we don't. I am not at all saying that we don't have to have something. To all the boat people, I apologize. Actually, no, this is a really beautiful painting. Now, one of the tricks that I'm going to do to help my ropes show is I'm going to take a little of my white out and tone it, right? Tone it, shade it here with my dark color. But I want it to be really close to a white, so it's just an off-white. I have a very sharp brush here. You use a detail brush. You use whatever you have to get control. And I'm going to run a line, a highlight line, on the inside of this. See that?
Yeah.
Otherwise, these are not going to show at all. And now I'm going to rinse this out. I'm going to get a detail brush because there are what? There are other little knots and things that we've got to represent. So I'm going to make my dark color, but with my detail brush. So that, you know, there's a little line around this.
Where they tied that rope on?
Yeah, we're just going to pretend people like tied some ropes and...
You're going to make some rigging?
A little bit.
Some implied rigging?
A little bit.
Well, there's definitely ropes on a boat.
Right. So you think to yourself, what am I keeping? What am I not keeping because I don't want to deal with it?
Mm-hmm.
Or because it doesn't help the composition. And I have to tell you, quite frankly, if Turner can do it, we can all do it. If it's okay for Turner, it's okay for us.
There's some, yeah, that looks like rigging. I like that.
Right? If it's okay for Turner, it's okay for us to just sit there and say, you know, this is valuable, or this is maybe not as valuable to me, and how we decide to talk about this different stuff. Right? Because you're trying to say that things are well tied or well thought out, and you want to have just enough to feel like, oh yeah, I painted the whole boat. Does my boat not have an oar? No, my boat does not have an oar.
It doesn't need it. Maybe they took the oar with them, or it's tucked up underneath the inside of the boat.
Okay.
So
I'm signing my name,
You're signing
guys.
your name. I think is good.
I think you guys have the gist of how you could paint a boat like this. You could spend days with the subject matter like this. You could be just as loose. You could come in and do this in 30 minutes in a very loose painting where you just, did you see that how early, like just blocking in the values created a boat? So this is the type of subject where you can spend a little bit of time or as much time as you like. You can tell a small amount of the story or all of the story. I hope talking about how you crop a photo was helpful, about the idea of just because it seems like a nice photo, look at it some different ways. Zoom in. Crop something out. Maybe there's a photo within your photo that's way better than the very nice trip photo that you took.
Now, I know that we always get a request for this, so here, real quick, I'm just going to throw this up full screen for people.
Yes!
Let's see if I can throw this up here. So there's the reference photo for us so that they can see that if they need to hit pause for us. And then we'll make sure that we get all of the other stuff posted up on the website. There's a link in the description below to where all that stuff's at, right?
I hope you guys are super proud of your paintings. I've been loving seeing what you do in group and everything. I'm excited to see you. I think we're going to have something else fun for you guys soon.
We got a video tomorrow to drop.
Yep, and I hope you guys are going to like it. It's very light. It's an amuse-bouche of art. Be good to yourselves. Be good to each other. And I have to tell you, after being through what we've just been through, it's community.
Absolutely.
Community is everything. So I want to thank you for your time in your community. And I want to see you at the easel really soon. Bye-bye.